Welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, today we're doing another Distro Wars, distro versus distro. And this was a fun request. Leave me your requests for these, by the way. And this distro is going to be MX Linux versus Manjaro. Actually, the first time the person said this is, hey, MX versus Mint, I'm like, well, I do MX Linux versus Mint XFCE edition because I would like to keep a lot of things consistent between these distro versus distros. But then he emails back not too long ago later and says, hey, can you change that MX versus Manjaro? So this is for you. I forget who asked for this. But Manjaro versus MX Linux. So, of course, Manjaro has an XFCE official build, so we're using the official XFCE, and MX Linux is also based on XFCE. So, with these, our primary differences between these are going to be that your MX Linux is based on Debian and your Manjaro is based on Arch. So, you have your ultimate quick difference between them is ultimately that. So we have different package managers. What we'll actually find is that the MX Linux probably has a few more interesting tools built into it. Manjaro gives you a much more fluid, more like a complete look versus the MX Linux. The MX Linux can look dated depending on some people. I think Manjaro is probably one of the best distros to have an XFCE build. And so what we're actually going to do here is we'll have a look at MX Linux first. Let me get logged into here and make sure it's starting in full screen, and then we will switch over to that. Okay, so on to MX Linux. This is going to be the first one. So MX Linux uses XFCE with a less traditional desktop, and that we have our bar across the top. Of course, being XFCE, we can move that anywhere that we want. We can even put it right in the middle of the screen if you really want to. I'm not sure why you would or what the use case is for that, but you actually can do it. We do have this nice pop-up menu here on startup. We have some various tweaks. We have some various tools, user manuals, FAQs, forums, codecs, things like this. Let me go ahead before we jump in, tell you that both these distros were downloaded in October about the same time. There may be a more recent update to these. I haven't checked, but they are both very recent releases. So there might be a slightly newer one out there. There's definitely going to be some updates if I run my update manager. So let's go ahead and jump on here. Now, of course, we have this nice welcome screen here. We have the option to show it or not show it. That's actually ticked right now because I wanted to make sure I showed it next time we started the desktop as well. So the things that we see out of the box. Now, the installer on these, I actually like the settings and options inside of MX Linux installer, but I think Manjaro's installer is slightly easier to use. You're less inundated with options, but things like the MX Linux installer gives you the option on the install as, hey, do you want to set your clock at 24 or 48 or 24 or 12-hour time? 48. Whoa, what's that? Anyway, you can set your clock directly on the installer, which is a very minor thing, but I actually had somebody leave a comment the other day. How do I change the clock in XFCE? It's driving me crazy. You'd want to right click it. You want to do your properties and you want to change your format down here. Of course, we have, not everybody speaks in this code. Depending on your version of XFCE, in this case here, we actually have a very nice code down here where you can build your own timestamps. And the basic XFCE that we'll find on Manjaro is going to be a little bit different. But anyway, it's nice to see that inside of the installer. Both of them will allow you to install it on an encrypted drive, and they're both easy installers to use. I just find the Manjaro one slightly easier. Now, we have the option here for codecs right here on the menu. If I just log in with my root password, this will allow us to install the codecs that oftentimes do not come with Linux pre-installed for various licensing reasons. So you want to make sure that it is legal in your part of the world to install the codecs for your individual use case. As a basic home user, you generally have no problems with doing that. So now we had a single button, our codecs are installed, so that means that now we should be able to use this computer to play multimedia no matter what. All right, so over here on our tweaks, it will save a copy of all of our settings. So this is how our panel and the theme settings look. It saves a copy of those, and then we can come over here. We can go ahead and just make some changes. Here's MX Dark, MX Light, Niche, Themes. So you can kind of see what we have over here. Let's go ahead and close that. Of course, inside of our tools, one of the big things that MX Linux gives us that is actually kind of rare to find in the Linux world is such a large variety of tools. If you are fairly new to Linux, MX Linux will probably get you a little bit more stability because it's based on Debian. Debian does tend to be a little bit more stable than Arch in some cases, particularly if we talk about Manjaro. I have not personally had issues with Manjaro crashing on me, but a lot of people have actually said that it does. And so but you don't get this nice tools panel here in Manjaro. We have a live USB maker. How do I make new ISO images? How do I make USB keys to boot Linux and test new Linux? A live USB maker. They got one built right here. The snapshot will actually make a complete ISO image of your current running system. So this is excellent for a business deployment. You can boot one of these guys up, customize it for your business, make the snapshot, and then deploy that custom image across to all of your computers without having to do anything else in between. That is awesome. Let's have a boot repair if your computer is behaving weirdly. As long as you can get it up to the screen, you can run a boot repair. Boot options, cleanup menus, menu editors, installation drivers for NVIDIA, which is not always the easiest to do in Debian, so it's awesome they have that. And then there's just so many other tools in here, which really makes MX Linux an excellent choice for any new user. Now, I did mention a little bit about the theming and the style. I actually think that MX Linux actually does look really good. Manjaro, I think, still looks slightly better, but the looks, hey, you can actually easily adjust those. But MX Linux just has this wonderful balance of contrast and color and design and style. We have, in this case here, we're running Thunar. We should actually be running Thunar on each of these systems. And I think we'll probably have a very similar version of XFCE. I'm not going to remember these numbers going through here, but let's, nope, that's about my user. Let me see if I can find system information. Can't see that. Doesn't seem as though we have our about systems. There's about me. No, I'm not seeing the full about system, so I'm not sure exactly which version of XFCE we're running on this. But still, it's running on very low resources, very lightweight, easy to install, very stable system out of the box. And it does look really good. Now, we also have with both of these some excellent package managers. In this case here, you might have seen this pop up over here. It says there's a 127 system updates. So in this case here, it's giving us kind of a list of everything that needs to be updated. And we can go ahead and update that if we want to. I'm not going to in this case because we're recording the video, so I don't want to run these. But the other thing that we actually find inside of this is I really enjoy their package installer. So we do have this one is Synaptic, and Manjaro has Pamak, which is very similar to Synaptic, only it's built for Arch instead. There is actually another package installer for MX Linux called the MX package installer. This one here, particularly if you are new, is nice because instead of having a big either a big bulky software store or having the Synaptic package list, which is intimidating for people at the best of times, you actually have here the most common tools that we have. So go down to audio. You can see a variety of different tools in here. If you're looking for certain web browsers, we have Firefox is installed. We have Firefox ESR. You can install Google Chrome, Waterfox, just this wide variety of browsers available. Children's tools. You can actually come in here and install different desktop environments, which is something that you can do on Manjaro by following an Arch wiki guide for installing a desktop environment, but it's not as easy as a click of a button, which we have inside of here. Some docks, Plank, ChiroDock. If you want a nice Mac-like dock, Plank or ChiroDock can accomplish those. Email applications, it says Thunderbird's installed. We have Claws Mail. There's actually another one called Evolution, which is my favorite, which if it's here is going to be under Office, and it's not. That makes me sad. We can still install it. It just means it's not here. Let's see if it's actually under this anywhere else. And it's not in their quick installer. Uh-oh, down points immediately. No, I'm kidding. Here's some extra themes you can install. And we have stable repo. We can install from the MX test repos over here. We have Debian backports. We have flat. Oh, stop. We have flat packs. No, I don't care. I'm just showing what's in here. My super secret password is definitely not 123. Looks like there's nothing installed under Flatpaks, or it's just not working, one of the two. All right. Yes, we're going to exit the package installer. So as far as applications installed, now we have I'm trying to think if we have a minimal or not on either one of these. So our basic tools under our archive, accessories, excuse me, we have just a variety of different simple system tools we would expect to have. There's some various updates, passwords, keys, task managers, things like that. Development, we have Genie, Icon Browser. There's a couple of games. We have GIMP installed, basic scanning application, a couple of basic scanning applications. There might actually be a little bit overlap in some applications here. We have here Thunderbird, Transmission, HexChat, FireChat. We have Clementine is an excellent music player. We do also have VLC. There's a little bit of overlap between those ones there. The MX tools, all of the things in that cool MX tool menu are right over here and then under our office. We have FB Reader as an ebook reader, which is a fascinating choice. We have PDF Arranger, which is an excellent tool I use to adjust PDFs. And then our basic settings, which our basic settings panel is actually going to be very similar on both distros because they both run XFCE. So, of course, we have our basic personal ones. We have some hardware settings over here. We have our accessibility. We do have an ad blocker built in over here. I think somewhere on here that we might have a link to the MX settings here. It might be in here, but of course, when you're recording a video, there it is. Sometimes it's hard to spot where they are. But anyway, that is MX Linux. Excellent choice for somebody switching over to Linux. Now, again, your package manager is going to be apt in this case because it's based on Debian. And other than that, it has a lot of good user-friendly tools. It has a nice style and design and a little bit slightly different of a desktop overall experience. So that is MX Linux. We will come back with Manjaro and have a look at what that looks like. And here we are on Manjaro. Once again, we have a very nice welcome screen here. What we see here in Manjaro is a more traditional layout. And like I said, I really love the theming of this. This is just right out of the box. Manjaro just looks gorgeous to me. It does look, they both look good. I really like Manjaro a little bit better. You will notice, yeah, our clock is in 24-hour time. It did not give us the option. How sad. Let's go ahead and click on your properties, and you can actually come down here and choose clock format down here. You can also go to custom format. So there we go. Now we're fixed. All right, so over here we have a README, we have release info, wikis, forums, chat rooms, applications, get involved. I believe pretty much everything here. So this one here, we do have another installer, very much like MX Linux. I actually forgot Manjaro had this, to be honest. Here it is, though. So yes, they do have a one that is like it, and automatically they get bonus points because they actually have evolution on their quick application installer. So Manjaro, ultimately infinitely better. I mean, come on. I love my evolution. What can I say? You know, I spent too much time in science, I guess. But anyway, we have a variety of different things. Calibri FB Reader for PDFs. We have a variety of PDF readers. There's a couple other editors there. I'm not seeing like PDF Shuffle or anything there. But video, we have Kodi. It looks like VLC is pre-installed. We have XPlayer. So you can see that we do have a very nice list of tools here as well, in addition to everything else. Now, we do have our desktop icons. They actually make these a little bit smaller by default. That's actually easy to change. Go into your desktop settings, I believe, and under icons, we can just go ahead and change our icon size. I think like a 42 is probably a little bit more common of an icon size. We do have the options right down here to add or remove various things. So I'm not a big fan of the file system on Linux. If I want to get to the file system, I'll just go into our folders there and do that. Let's see if we actually have, there's About Me. See, this is the one, About XFCE was the one that was missing over in MX Linux. So we were running version 4.14. We should have the most recent version because Manjaro is running This is XFCE and on Arch, and so it is going to have the latest packages. Now, one of the things that we have in Manjaro, though, that we do not have in MX Linux is if you're concerned with your Linux kernels, this guy down here, which is the Manjaro logo, is actually the kernels manager. So this guy here will actually allow us to change our kernels. So we're running 5.2 is what's running installed, and it even says it's unsupported there because, yeah, I guess there might be a new version. It does want us to either go up to we can either drop down to an LTS here. We can go with, we go with this one here, or we can go to 5.3 or 5.4. We're not going to change our kernels right now in the middle of our stream. But anyway, we also have a separate package manager over here. And this one, as I said, is very much like Synaptic. It's probably slightly better in that, hey, at least we have a few icons. This one is Pamak, which is a GUI that sits on top of the package manager Pacman. And if we come over here, here's under our categories, we can actually sort by applications. So I like doing this. In fact, I've installed this onto my Arch Labs computer just because I really like Pamak. I like seeing if there's an update down here in the corner. We can see that this is Arch, so it has 586 available updates since I downloaded this in, I guess I downloaded this in October, I think, the end of October. But we can actually come in here and run updates. Of course, the other thing that we have that we don't have in Debian is we do have access to our Arch user repository, or our AUR, which we can enable over here. It's turned off by default. You can turn it on. There is a danger with the AUR, and that's that anybody can submit to it. So there could potentially be some malware in there. So you got to be careful with it. I use the AUR as a last resort if I'm looking for individual pieces of software. But we do have a very nice GUI package installer there, in addition to the one that was in the welcome screen that I completely forgot was there. We also have inside of our settings, this is just our basic settings panel that's going to be essentially the same as we had in MX Linux. You will notice fewer options here. That's because we do not have a series of tools and tweaks. Like we don't have the ISO creators, we don't have the boot repair. A lot of those types of things that MX Linux really has as a major advantage are absent from this. Is that a huge deal breaker? Absolutely not. This is Linux. You can just have an ISO of MX Linux laying around, boot up the ISO image, and run your boot repair from an ISO image on a USB drive if you really want to. So the fact that those being on the system or not on the system, that's not a deal breaker for me. It's just something that's actually handy, and it's there if you need it. As far as tools and things, let's go ahead and see first. Let's see what this guy's running on. We had Conky on the other one on the desktop to see how things are running. This is running 722 megabytes. For XFCE is actually a little bit heavy, although we did have it update the package cache a few times. So there might be some things running in the background there that I wasn't specifically on the ball with. Let's also go back to our settings and look at our themes. So we can see that we have about the same amount of themes and stuff. We didn't actually dig into all of the theme settings, but the themes we do have some similar themes. XFCE is a little bit limited in how the themes are distributed and how they look. If you know CSS, you can get into the files and customize these, but we do have a lot of really good settings. And I do think that this is absolutely one of the most beautiful renditions of XFCE, probably actually only beat by Zorn OS Lite. That doesn't even look like XFCE. It's such a good job of doing the adjustments. Let's have a look at our applications installed. So we can see that we do have a variety of tools in here. There's some tools that are missing compared to MX Linux, but for the most part, everything that you're going to need is going to be here. Education, we have LibreOffice Math, we have Steam pre-installed. That is probably a benefit for some of you. We have GIMP, LibreOffice Draw, we have Firefox, HexChat, Thunderbird. So a lot of the applications are actually pretty similar. VLC, Audacious, we have XFburn, we have LibreOffice. Now this is another point to mention. Manjaro had a little bit of a controversy recently where they were going to drop LibreOffice and install, is it SoftMaker Office? I think it was one of the ones that's not particularly an open source one. And the community came out in full force against Manjaro. And they dropped that plan, and they do give you the option. When you are installing Manjaro, you have the option to not install any Office suite or install LibreOffice or install that new suite, which I think the new suite is, frankly, I think it's an upsell scam. It might have a little bit better compatibility with some Microsoft Office packages in some cases, but it severely limited what you could save the files as, how you can manipulate the thing. It felt like a completely crippled tool. And the fact that Manjaro even tried to do something like that is like, what are you thinking? So whatever that might be worth in your analysis. All right, so other than that, this is pretty much what we get. We do have the kernel updater in addition to our POMX system updates. We do have access to a few different ways to install software. We do have a different package manager, being Pacman, on this because we are using Arch, but we also have the Arch user repository as an option as well. And again, let's have a look at our about. This is, again, also Thunar. I think this is probably going to be a slightly newer version of XFCE. Now, some of the concerns about Manjaro is some people have reported that it will not install for them. Matthew Moore had that situation with the video. But also, we had some cases where several people say that after a period of time, Manjaro will break for them. Now, I've run Manjaro for a month or two at a time, a couple different times, and I've never had a case where the system breaks on me. But enough people have said it's worth considering. So if pure stability is your chief major concern, MX Linux is probably going to be slightly better for you. Manjaro, for everything that I've used it for, seen it for, I think Manjaro is still an absolutely awesome choice of a computer. So I'm not thinking you're going to go wrong with either one of them. They're both excellent options, both running XFCE, both very lightweight. One of them is going to roll a whole lot more, being based on Arch. The other one, not so much, but you're going to have more stability in MX Linux over Manjaro, according to some people. A lot of the packages are similar. Installation methods are similar. The installers, I think Manjaro's installer is slightly easier to use, but you're not going to have a problem if you're installing an OS. You're not going to have a problem with MX Linux either. So with all that being said, that is my comparison between them. Which one do you think, based on this information, is the best of all of the worlds? Both very compatible, both very similar, both have the same types of applications. Of course, I'm going with Manjaro because it's got Evolution easy to install right there. Yeah, all jesting aside, though, I've run them both for periods of time. I haven't had a problem with either one of them. They're both excellent distributions. So let me know your vote for which one's better in the comments down below.